Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hi there, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 250, yay, of the Cognitive Podcast, the new series. That really means we're at about 490, I think, total. Can you believe that? Since 2008 or 9, whenever I started it. I say it somewhere in the introduction. And this one is called The Best Ever Birthdays with an F. That's in honor of my very late father, Vincent, who for some reason could not say birthday, could not do the RTH blend. And so he always said birthday. And we just gently agreed not to give Dad a hard time about that. But I kind of hold it in my heart as this really funny, silly, pointless memory of the fact that even great people like my dad had their imperfections. And I would tell you now, go look at the show notes. There's a ton of photos in the show notes. I had a lot of fun this week, and I'm bringing you along for the ride. And the first photo is my son with one of the birthday poppers. And we had a heck of a time getting these things to work. And I got mine to work right away, but had to really maneuver it. And the two of them struggled for a while. And then suddenly my son, at just the perfect moment, got his to go off. And I got this lovely stop action photo of it all flying to bits in his hands. It's really kind of amazing. And I also want to thank N30Nix, a buddy from Reddit, who gave me the graphic of a ferret celebrating its birthday because, of course, on Reddit, I am the ferret. There are many of us, by the way, many people have ferret in their name, but I have adopted it because if ever there was an animal that's going to represent me well, the ferret. So there you go. Now, when you hear this, of course, it'll be easily 9 days after my birthday, but that's okay because we just forgot to stop celebrating. So today is Tuesday, September 9th, 2025, as I record this. And I think today, I did have a slice of the leftover cake. There's very little left. I think today may be the first day we actually were not actively celebrating my birthday. We just kept going because 65 is great. Okay, so your comments are very welcome. Please feel free to comment here on the blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com or go comment on our group on Ravelry. And thank you. I've gotten a ton of happy birthdays in various locations, and I'm just enjoying it so much. Meanwhile, somebody did try to get added to my group on Instagram. I won't do that because I just keep getting hit with robots, AI, and, well, people whose politics that I would not agree with. Really, kids, it's easier not to. So I don't take additions to my follower groups. In the warm thanks department, did I mention all the people who've said happy birthday to me in the last few weeks? It's been fabulous. I also want to thank two people who have come through for me last week and keep coming through for me. And that's Loretta 1031 and our own Danny M. up in Seattle. I cannot say enough how grateful I am to the two of you. You were there when I needed you, and I just continue to benefit from your wisdom and your endless kindness. It means so much to me to have you as my friends. I also want to thank the wonderful gang signing up for CFR 11. It's going to be a blast. I'm really excited. The classes look fun and interesting, so hopefully we will get kicking on that. And I want to thank my community in Finch on Reddit and on the ground in the Santa Clarita Valley and in this group, and I cannot fail to add my friends up in the Antelope Valley. I didn't realize I still had them, and I do. Yay! Okay, so thank you, all of you. You have made a wonderful week even better. And the other people who made my week better were the birds on Finch. The two of them wished me happy birthday. Okay, there you go. You can see the images of them wishing me happy birthday. They are wise birds because they are in their pajamas, which is how I spent a certain part of my birthday week. I'm here to tell you. Meanwhile, let's go on to CFR 11. The info thread is linked in the show notes. It says all info is right here in capitals, and here is blue, and that's the link. I am very excited. I have my hotel reservation. It is on for October 11th. And at this point, $10, and we will see where that goes. And, please pay at the time of the registration. Everybody can sign up now. I'm very excited because we have an embroidery and blackwork class, which I am delighted about. That is one of those things I've kind of wanted to get in previous years. And that's coming from our own Drew Caitlin. And then the ever-lovable Lefty Rebel Knitter. Also a really great handle, I'm just going to say. She is offering a class on Russian graft. This is not Russian join, the way you join threads together when you change color. This is a way you close toes and seams. And she says she's using it on baby booties and blankets. She thinks it's way better than Kitchener for sock toes. There might be homework with that. Who cares? Because remember, our hotel is sitting down the road from Michael's. And so we can get any craft stuff we need, and Target and Walmart. It's all there. And yours truly, I want to teach self-hypnosis. I have hypnotized the group in past years, and I finally thought, why am I just not showing them how to do it themselves? When you learn this, it's so easy and fun, and I have even had surgery under self-hypnosis twice now, including my C-section. Do I recommend you do that after 1 hour with me training you, or 90 minutes, however long we take? I don't know. What I recommend is any hypnosis is the beginning of this exploration path of using your own consciousness and your own mind for your own benefit in a very powerful way. It is on the same plane as meditation and deep prayer. So, okay. So I'm going to offer self-hypnosis. If I get there and everybody goes, no, we don't want that, we want this other thing, you'll get the other thing. I don't care. I'm the organizer. I can do that. Meanwhile, I can't wait. I'm starting to really get excited because I'm beginning to realize it's a month out and we're just going to have a blast. And I'm kind of interested because our format is slowly developing as CFR does. And this year, I think it's just going to be very warm, very intimate, and very, very user-driven. And I'm excited to see where this goes. Oh, God, I can't wait. I just can't wait. What a weekend. All right, what's on my hooks and needles? Can you tell I've had a great week? And I'm really juiced. And Loretta and Danny, this has a lot to do with you too. So what's on my hooks and needles? What did I finish? Well, I was looking at the Lisa Souza yarns that I spun. And I just said, I don't have enough. I can't figure out what I want to do with it. And I looked at the peach-colored BFL and said, that will be beautiful as a color involved in a Fair Isle yoke. But what am I going to do with the rest of this? And I have a lot of it. So you know what I did, right? I used up this silk camel hair and the silk camel hair BFL blends, and I made dragon paws in gold. And I love them. I love dragon paws. And you can see the link to that in the show notes. It'll take you to my Ravelry page where you can find the just brilliant, brilliant pattern from Yarnivore in the UK for this. And I am toying with what patterns do I want to have as our communal patterns at CFR. And this would be one of them probably. And also I was looking at the emotional support chickens, both the small versions of the knit and the crochet. And today a new knitted version came out. And I was just thinking, okie dokie, that might be what your $10 are going for, kids. That I may just buy a bunch of copies of the pattern and give it to you all. And we can scan it all in while we're there. I've got scanning on my phone. We can all do that. All right. Meanwhile, that's what I finished, the Golden Dragon Paws. And I love those things. And they go really fast, and they look so much harder than they are. The only issue with the Dragon Paws, what does she call them? I don't even remember. But anyway, the only issue with them, when you're doing the scales, you do a stitch in a base round. Then you come round on the next round and you crochet along each side of this very lengthy stitch to get the scale. And the first time you do it is unquestionably weird, and then you get it. Then you see what you're doing, and then you realize it is absurdly easy to do. And by the way, we will have a yarn table at CFR. I will be bringing a shacked portable wheel, and I believe I'm going to bring the Ashford portable I think it's an Ashford portable that I've got. I'm going to bring at least 2 wheels. And I'm thinking the sale price is $300 for each wheel. And if I can fit a third wheel in, I will. I don't want to make a lot of money off these wheels. I want to move them to people who want them. And I can't think of anybody I'd rather move them to than the people at my own knitting retreat. Like, what a great way to do this knitting retreat and to give people a chance to get a good wheel. It's going to take a little oiling and a drive band to bring it up to spin. I don't think that's any problem for anybody in the group. And I can help you if we need to do that. And we can buy twine over at Michael's and do that and get it running right there as part of our project one evening. I don't care, but I want to see these wheels out of my living room in the hands of happy spinners. Lexicom, if you're listening, any wheel I have, you get first dibs on, just so we're clear. But I don't want to price these high. No, they're not low price because they're broken or cheap. No, they're low price because I want to move them. That right now they're just interfering with my life, and I really want them to go to people who will love them. So there we go. Meanwhile, where was I? I was on the finished projects. I'm so excited about CFR 11. I'm sorry. Okay. I just enjoy CFR, I got to say. All right, so I also finished Maisie the Candy Corn Wooble. Few things about Maisie. You may remember that a few weeks ago I did Hal the Halloween Pumpkin because I was trapped in Barnes & Noble and I needed a removable stitch marker. So, of course, that was a cheap excuse to buy the pumpkin. And then I went through my kits and realized I have an old kit for Chuck the Duck, who is a one-off, I think, from Missouri Star Quilting Company. Okay, so I made them. And if you think real hard, you'll realize that pumpkin is orange and Chuck the Duck is yellow. And Wooble's just issued a new pattern for candy corn. I am going to tell you this is absolutely the simplest starter pattern they could do. It is just the egg shape. Now, a few things about it. One, it's egg shaped, not candy corn shaped, not as cone shaped as I like. 2, it's as easy as it gets, but the colors are reversed. I think the orange should be on the bottom, not at the middle band. However, I had so much yellow, a huge amount left over from Chuck the Duck. I could have made another Chuck, to be honest. And I had a huge amount of orange left over from Hal the Jack-o'-lantern. So, of course, I just made a free Wooble, and I enjoyed it. I made it really quickly. Did I make it on my birthday? I might have. And I also made myself a birthday cake. Yes, I think that was on my birthday. The birthday cake was a freebie I got when I bought a kit. Probably it came with Chuck the Duck. I mean, at this point, I have bought a few kits from them, and I've communicated a lot with them. So now I tend to get freebies with my orders from the Woobles. That is one of the good sides about paying their prices. So there is my birthday cake Wooble. And as you can see, it is surrounded by my flock, including Chuck the Duck. And they are all wishing me a happy birthday there. And I am making myself a meme that I can send around for the rest of my life to everybody on their birthday. Meanwhile, remember the shrugs that I'm making because I just can't keep my hands off that insanely beautiful Noro multicolor cotton blend yarn that they have at Little Knittery? There's another one. I finished the multicolor shrug. What is key about this one? This one is very close to the original pattern because I keep violating the original pattern, you may remember. I did it in the orientation. I did it following their instructions. I believe I made it following their biggest size. Interesting thing about this. A lot of interesting things. So you can look at that. That's the best picture I've ever gotten of the lace. You can see the lace the way it's meant to look. You can also see the sleeve. All I did was make a straight up scarf and then seamed each sleeve 4 inches. I tested that on myself first and it worked really well. Now, you are supposed to do a single crochet stitch around the entire edge before you do any sewing. I did not, because I don't think that's as attractive. Now, I looked at the original shrug I made way back when I was going to Kansas out of the white worsted weight that was a blend that was at Michael's, who they donated to us years ago. Long story, you've heard it before. And I think I may actually have followed the original pattern on that. I'm not sure. The edging looks tighter and somewhat different. On this one, though, I did my favorite edging, which is shell stitches and double crochet in every other stitch. And I did that. I seamed the sleeves, then I did the shell stitch along the sleeves, and then I did the shell stitch just around what was remaining of the opening after I did the stitching. So there I am wearing the closest iteration you will see from me probably for this shrug. And this is, I think it's called the Lacy Summer Shawl or Shrug. This is from Lion Brand. If you go follow the show note link, you'll get to the pattern eventually through my Ravelry page. But there it is. I have one more still on the needles. That is the Pink Lacy Shrug. You can see its progress below. I'm pretty happy too because I finished that and took it out of a yarn bag that now is going to stay dedicated as a yarn bag. And meanwhile, because it's that papery material, so it won't make a good pillow, but. Meanwhile, I had another yarn bag made by the ever wonderful Tally, and I am going to take that yarn bag and convert it to a pillow because it's got Star Wars on it and it's way cool. Whereas this yarn bag can just stay a yarn bag till it disintegrates. Yeah, that makes sense. Meanwhile, in progress, I am working on the Lacy Pink Shrug, and also what I want to tell you is now that I've made one shrug following the actual instructions from Lion Brand, what you should know, it used up the entire 500-something yard skein of that Noro Okajiri. Whereas the shrugs I adapted by just making the scarf part across the back and then joining them at the ends and making double crochet sleeves in the round, those took so much less yarn, it's amazing, to the point where you can see the Moomin water bottle that my son gave me for my birthday. I am using the leftover of the turquoise shrug to make a bottle holder for that. It is going to come just a slight bit short, I suspect, but that's okay because I've got just enough left over from the purple shrug that I finished last week that I will use that to finish the strap. I made up my pattern for the Moomin water bottle holder, but if you go through to the link in the show notes, you will find on my Ravelry page, I used the base from a pattern for a water bottle that I liked. It was a free pattern, but I could not figure out how she was doing the double crochet clusters in her pattern, so I bagged it. I used her base, but then I just basically did a pattern round and round of double crochet chain one. And in the row above, you do the double crochet in the chain hole and the chain above the double crochet. So that is the pattern. When I had enough of that, I tied it off, and then I did on one side just 8 half double crochets across. I connected it, I slip stitched it on. From there, I just kept going with that 8 half double crochet to make the strap. When I get enough of it, I will crochet it right on to the other side directly across from where I started, and that will be my handle. Hopefully you'll see that in a week or two. No work on the quilt squares. No spinning this week, although I'm pretending that I did. So that means I take a big sip of my lovely tea tonight, drinking from one of my favorite beautiful mugs, and I give you a strategy. Oh, that is white chocolate macadamia mint, I believe. Yeah, from Plum Deluxe. Woo. So what is this strategy? Well, I had a bunch of strategies, and then I sort of stopped and I thought, well, here I am, I'm 65. Surely I'm old and wise now. And it's a weird thing. Because one day you're 64 and you're young, and then you're 65 and you're old. And that seems to be the way the legal world looks at things. Okie dokie. So I thought perhaps now I should dispense wisdom like I haven't been doing that by using other people's wisdom. So I thought, well, what do I know now that I'm 65? And I thought, oh, it's going to sound so trite. I think the single most important song written in my lifetime in terms of the truest song is the Beatles song, All You Need Is Love. Interestingly enough, when I was in my early 20s, my father's girlfriend, who was about 60, told me that. said, at the end of the day, Jenny, all that's going to count is love. And I was young and excited, and I was going into the world. I was going to go to Scotland, and I was going to get my doctorate in English, and I was going to be a professor. And I thought, well, yeah, I need that too, but I need all these other things. Now that I'm 65, Marjorie, it's wherever you are, you were totally right. At the end of the day, the single most important thing is how you manage love. And for me, not for everyone, that has been about family. And I am fortunate because I was raised by the Italian side of my birth family, and all they did was love each other. They were so generous and kind. They thought I was a weird duck, because number one, as you can tell, I don't particularly look Italian, although I do act it in a lot of situations. But they thought I was in love with books, and also I was cross-eyed, so they were a little sad because they thought no man would ever want me. I say this out of 33 years of really happy marriage. Okay, and they were so kind and so loving and also darn good cooks. And it really has come down to it that preserving my family, and that is being in a good partnership for 33 years plus the 4 before it when we were dating, and working very, very hard on raising our son and on doing the homework, on being there for him when he needed us, and just being committed to that, being committed to everything is about how we make the family go. I would tell you that's the single most important thing I've learned. And I am not surprised when I look at my friends who I really am treasuring right now, and that's going to be the Knitmores and, Jasmine and Gigi, absolutely, and Danny and her kids, and Loretta and her family, and all of them have come through life doing that, treasuring family, holding it together. And I look back and I realize the people who have inspired me most have been the people that showed me how to do that. And sometimes it's been professionals like Dr. Aaron Beck, Dr. Marcia Linehan, that the people who trained me to do what I do professionally. And sometimes also it's my mentors as an English professor. Professor Phyllis Racken comes to mind, Professor Louise Schleiner. These were all people who, first and foremost, were dedicated to the love of their family and to the support. So if I'm going to give you any strategy right now from the depths of 65, I'm going to say that's the big one, is make a family however you do it. Even if you're divorced or abandoned by your partner, make a family. Even if you're in a non-traditional marriage, it doesn't matter. Make a family, hold your family, cherish your family. There are a few other things I would say I have valued a lot. If I make a promise, I keep it. I work very, very hard on that. That means a lot to me. The other thing that matters is my family saw having skills and craft skill as a sign of poverty, because it was when my parents were young. They saw those as simple things that you paid lesser skilled people to do while you had white-collar work or stayed in your home and raised babies or whatever. I have to say that was wrong-headed, but it was very common in their generation. And the other thing I've learned over the years, I was forced to learn to sew when I was 17, and I am deeply grateful. Sewing led to embroidery, led to cross-stitch, led to trying things like hooking rugs, quilting, making my own clothing when I had no money, and eventually to knitting and crocheting and weaving and spinning. I have gotten more joy out of the handcrafts than I can tell you. When I was talking to that young man in Barnes & Noble, I was telling you in the last episode, and he was stunned that I said I learned to sew in high school. And he said, why aren't we taught those things anymore? And I felt a great depth of sadness come over me. I hope we will revert to that. And then finally, I had to put in a meme of the Addams Family because I love the Addams Family. And Wednesday is asking Morticia, Mom, am I weird? And she says back, I would hope so. Life is happier like that. I can say it's happier or better, but you get the point. And by the way, it's a picture of a mother kissing her daughter. And there we are. So I guess it's a little corny, but that's my strategy. Make that family, hold that family, love that family, sacrifice where you have. And the people I've named in this podcast so far are the people who have really reinforced and modeled that for me, and I am deeply grateful to all of you. Oh, shoot. Well, I haven't been running, which is embarrassing since I've got a race in, I think, 11 days. But I've been hiking LA. And one of the great gifts, on my birthday, by the way, I did not go hike LA. I'll talk about that later. But on the day after my birthday, on Friday, the 5th, the True Love just said, okay, I took Junior off to college. Let's go do what you do. Take me with you. We had an absolutely gorgeous day in Glendale and Los Feliz. And I will talk about it in the blather, but you can see a picture of us mugging in front of my favorite place on earth right now, the Griffith Observatory. Meanwhile, you can see my upcoming race says, yeah, don't hold your breath. Let's get on to the fluffy books. Well, right now, I am listening at night to the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. Boy, do I like this book. Boy, do I like this book. I like it because the author is, how can I say this? She's giving a very clear-sighted view of not being white in England. The book's slightly in the past. It sounds like it would be dated in the 90s, the way everybody's behaving and the way they talk about their cell phones and their sat-nav and all that. And it's just really clear-headed. I like the integration in the novel, the diversity, and I like the storyline. And I like the way, the more you think about the diversity in the novel, the more you get the feeling that being an irregular witch is a metaphor for something much bigger. Go read it. It's just fun. It's very sweet. It's very generous and kind. And it looks at difference and diversity in an interesting way. It looks at it from the point of view of children being diverse, like different from adults, and witches being diverse, and white people being diverse, and people of color being diverse. I mean, they're really going for it. Different jobs being diverse. It's just a really interesting, mind-expanding book, and it never beats the drum. It's just all there. It's all just quietly integrated in the background. It's very, very fun. Meanwhile, I am reading The Mysterious Benedict Society, and that's really thought-provoking. The premise is there is capital T, the capital E emergency. And it's being broadcast night and day, and nobody can avoid it except a small group of highly intelligent people who experience it as painful and are trying to stop the broadcaster. Anybody else hearing a political parallel here? Because I am. And it gets even more interesting if you read it that way, because the genius of the book, the head genius, has an evil twin. And it's kind of like one has a cult and is manipulative and evil and confusing intentionally, and the other is unpopular, clear-headed. Okay, it's just interesting. Do they know they're doing this? Does the author know it? I don't know, but I'm very interested in it. Apparently it was very successful. There are sequels. Something I really like, Nella. Now, this is for us older ladies. You might want to get the kids out of the room. I'm not going to be dirty or graphic, but I am going to talk about women's issues. I was a little shocked, counting to 5 slowly in my head so you can get the kids out of the room. I was a little shocked that on the internet, I found an ad for a kit that involves a speculum for your pelvic exams. And I thought, you have to be kidding me. It's called the Nella, and that is Italian for in her. Yes, it's a good use of the language. And it is called the Nella Comfort Kit. And I thought, this sounds crazy. And it is a kit, and you can see a picture of it opened. And it comes with, going counterclockwise in the picture, top left, a squeeze ball for you to squeeze while you're being examined. And below that is a vial of essential oil. It's lavender. Darn it, I'm allergic to lavender. If I remember, somebody's going to get this at the Cognitive Fiber Retreat for fun. And then there is a small packet of wipe for after your exam to clean yourself up. And then there is a small packet of lubricant. Now, the last thing is there's a pair of socks. They're hard to see. To put your feet in the stirrups, have warm little toesies. And that's really for your doctor's convenience. It doesn't smell bad, I would think. And then there are two of the same speculum. Now, they make one of these kits for pregnant women, because when you're pregnant, that exam hurts, and I'm here to tell you, yes, you sort of get a little distorted in that region of your body. I'm going to put this politely because I don't know who's listening. So it can be very uncomfortable being examined with a classic speculum. And then they have a kit for, I believe it is younger people. And then they have a third kit for postmenopausal. So you can guess which one I bought. What are they really doing here? They're saying the traditional speculum hurts women. And they give you a lot of statistics, including one that meant a lot to me. The last time I was examined, I had a just brutal OBGYN at Kaiser. And she really hurt me. And she used a traditional tool, even though I was about 8 years postmenopausal at that point. There was screaming, there was bloodshed, and she said it was my fault, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to continue that. So I was very interested in this because they said this is a smaller speculum. And they sent me on the research trail. Now, there's actually 3 sizes of specula, that is the plural in Latin. There is the standard, I'm a girl in the middle of my life size. There is an extremely tiny one for children when it's necessary. And then there is a middle-sized one that is considered to be postmenopausal or a young woman who has not yet, had sex. Okay. And so anyway, they point out in the Nella ads, why do doctors not use these? Why is it always that big standard one? And that's certainly what happened to me at Kaiser, and that doctor had every reason to know that I was not going to be able to tolerate that. So the tragedy is, now they are marketing these things to doctors, but doctors can just order this from medical supply companies. They don't have to go to Nella for this. But they're actually marketing their patients and saying, don't let your doctor hurt you. Take this with you and demand they use it. So I did. And it worked. Now, very interesting. First of all, this time I was going to Facey Medical. I'm not real fond of Facey, but let me tell you, their women's health, they were wonderful. And I got a really great assistant nurse, a CNA. And she came in and I said, this is a yes-no question. I would like this one used. And she said, we've heard of that, but we've never had someone bring one in. And I said, here you go. And I said, I brought 2, one to practice on, one to use. And then I shocked her because I bought 2 of these kits because I was going to review it on the podcast because I think this is one of those things women need to talk about. And so I bought a kit for myself and I did practice with it. And it was life-changing. Didn't hurt, wasn't noticeable, wasn't hard, wasn't painful at all. And I was stunned. I have never had that experience in an exam. So I said to the CNA, I've used this. This works. She said, well, we were told they can't lock. I said, locks just fine, has a light, works real well. Used it on myself. She looked really sort of puzzled. So the nurse came in, the nurse practitioner, and she said, I hear you want us to do this. And I said, yes. She said, okay. She said, we've heard of it. We've never seen one. We haven't heard anything positive, but we really haven't heard much about it. We just know it's out there. And we had a great discussion. I said, here's my story. And she said, oh my God, no wonder you're scared. And she showed me the one she was going to use. And she said, it is bigger than the one you have. It is not a full size, but you're right. Yours is smaller. She used the Nella. It's a one-off. It's a one-use thing. Yes, I don't like that, if you're wondering. However, considering all the useless things that get thrown into trash heaps, he could do a lot worse than women using this until doctors start using humane-sized instruments on us. So she used the Nella. I cannot tell you it was great. I really barely noticed she was working on me. It was just lean back, okay, slight scratch when they took the sample, and then it was done. And she did the ovary check. I won't go into details. You all know what I mean. That didn't hurt at all. And the whole thing took maybe 3 minutes. And I said, is that it? And she said, yeah. And I said, I can't believe you did that. And she said, that's all it has to be. And she said, I'm really sorry for what you've been through. And she said, I have learned over the years as a nurse practitioner, it's really not the instrument. It's the person holding the instrument that determines what the exam is like. And I said, well, please let me know if I can review you, because you have just changed my world. I cannot tell you how much easier and better it was because you did this and you made it easy. But I said, I will be carrying one of these on my next exams for the rest of my life. And she said, more power to you. And I said, the tragedy is they have to market it to the patient because the doctors refuse to move on this. And both nurses nodded and said, that's exactly right. We understand why you would do this. So there we go. You can train your nurse practitioner and her assistant at least. And it's a great kit, but really it's a little overkill. It's a lot of stuff to make you feel better. It's the specula in the kit. They're fabulous. And I want women to know about it, so I'm going to say it here. Okay, put a lid on it. Nah, I got nothing. We're still doing the Ketorade till it cools down here. I know the rest of you are starting to get autumn. We're still in summer because California, we get hot weather right into October. So let's get on to the blather, shall we? All right, so just to be clear, that was Tuesday, the 2nd of September. I worked on Wednesday, the 3rd. So I had 2 4-day weekends divided by a Wednesday. It was great, actually. So Thursday was my birthday, and I woke up. You can see the flowers and the cards on the table. And I gave the boys gifts this year to celebrate my birthday. I gave them Barnes & Noble gift cards with little Lego minifigures of me. Now, that sounds worse than it was. The idea was I was going to make little minifigures of me and use the customizer in the Lego store to put shirts on that said, I love you, you are my hero, whatever. Yeah, their machine was broken. So they got minifigures of me. Weird? You betcha. Then the next thing you can see is my beloved Carla, alias Quantum Quadrat, went on my wish list and sent me 2 things. One is Victorian cats to knit, which is spectacular. Hopefully I'll come back to it. It's knitted stuffed cats. Oh, they're so perfect. However, what you can see there, this is a special cup and book holder that will stay upright on cushions and mattresses. And I put this on my wish list, and I keep thinking I should get that, not getting it. All right, you know. Well, Carla sent it to me, so that relieved me of that. This thing is amazing, and I highly recommend it. I have it in bed with me every night, and you can see I put my drinking bottles in it, and even my big tall ones, they don't tip over. I put my books in the middle section. I put my, you name it at this point, car keys, tablets, phone, and you can see 2 of those cup holders are sort of shaped like a weird fish because they take cups with handles. So in the winter, I can put my teacups in it and it will stay upright. This will probably show up in something I really like with a link to it, but this is one of those dumb little things that's wonderful. And then on Thursday, the boys had to rush back and forth to get my kid to his classes. So my husband said, well, why don't you just go out and pamper yourself? So I did. There you can see my right foot with its pedicure, with its pretty little painted flower on it. And I also got a foot and body massage and had a lovely lunch of salad over at the Habit. And it was just blissful. And I came home to my cake. And there's my cake in front of my birthday roses and my son's hand lighting the candles. I must say, I am deeply grateful. My husband made a keto chocolate cake. I will probably eat the last slice tomorrow. One weird thing about keto cakes, they stay soft. They don't harden up like flour-based cakes. Really wild. But there it is, and they fortunately did not try to shove 65 candles on that baby, so I did not have to have an asthma attack, and there it is. And by the way, a lot of this was consumed outside at the pavilion. I'll get back to that. And I put my Starbucks cup because I was on my way back from my pampering, and I stopped at Starbucks, and I used my birthday credit, and I heard one of them say, was that her birthday? Oh my gosh, did you write anything on the cup? So there is the enjoy on the cup. So that was Thursday, and it was wonderful. And then on Friday, my honey came with me after dropping the son at college, and we did my day, the kind of migration day I do. We got on the train and we went down to Glendale and we picked up the bus to Los Feliz. And from there we picked up the next bus up to the Griffith Observatory. Because it was not a Saturday, the shows were shuffled around a bit. So I thought we were going to get to see the one that I thought was the best, Centered in the Universe. But instead, we saw the show that they have that involves little kids actively in it called Water. It was perfectly done and it was wonderful. I was also pleased to know, as I sat in my chair, that apparently I found the chair that had the Buzz Aldrin Slept Here tag on it. I don't know why, but they had his name on my chair. I was delighted by that. Apparently Buzz and I have good taste in seating. So there's a picture of my husband and I, and behind us, if you really look in the top middle, you will see the Hollywood sign. It looks much bigger when you're there. But there we are posing in front of the Hollywood sign. I seem to be spending my life trying to get to see the Hollywood sign up close. We had a lovely time. We went to the Griffith Observatory, and before we went, we landed in Los Feliz early to get the bus up. So we went over to Figaro, which is a sort of French cafe, and it's a sidewalk cafe. And we sat out on the sidewalk and we had coffee together. And then we walked up to, there is a cute little gift shop whose name I still can't figure out. And we walked in there and got little cards that are so obscene in what they say that I'm not going to read them aloud, but they are hilarious. And then we went into Skylight Books, and then we went up to the observatory, and we wandered around, and we saw the show. And then we went back to Los Feliz, and we went to Starfish Sushi. And my husband, he wanted to see everything I do and like. So we had sushi together, and then we caught the train back. And it was just a delightful, sweet day with my honey. Saturday, I woke up. I was really upset by something, and I'm not going to go into it. But Saturday was the day I reconnected, where I talked to my husband and said, I don't know what to do about this. I'm really hurt. This person said this and did this way. My husband said, you really need to connect with people who are going to CFR 11. You really do. You really need to talk to Loretta especially. So I started texting Danny because I realized I just had not picked up the thread there that we were going to talk and we didn't schedule it well, or I didn't. I'm not sure who to blame. It might have been me, to be honest. But anyway, I texted Danny and I said, this is going on. And Danny gave me some good advice. And meanwhile, I texted Loretta and she said, you want to talk at 10 a.m.? So I got on the FaceTime with Loretta, 10:31. I am so grateful to the two of them. And what really got me was Loretta just called it, where I said, this happened. And she said, that sounds kind of like an unfriendly thing. And I said, yeah, it really hurt me. I can't believe the person meant that. And she said, let's talk about it. So we went through everything we know in the situation that hurt me. Anyway, then we got on to CFR 11. And I said, it's going to be smaller this year. And we got each other really excited about it. Like, we started talking about, what does that mean? What can we do? What's it going to be like? And we just realized we're still having classes. We still have vendors, although I have to contact them and say, just so you know, it's going to be smaller. You may not want to take up the hotel space. And we just realized we're in such a central location. And I said, we could do anything. Like, we could actually, not that I'm suggesting this, we could drive down and do a yarn crawl. Like, we could go down Balboa and hit the 2 yarn stores there and come back. We could do that as part of what we do. Or we could just do all the classes. We really are free to pretty much do all this stuff because we're not as constrained because it's a smaller group. And the group can do it at once and we can help them. And we talked about patterns and we talked about all sorts of things. And I just began to feel so grateful to her and so happy about CFR 11. And thank you. And the same with Danny, where Danny just said, well, have you ever thought that a lot of people might like the small, intimate one, that all the other surviving podcast retreats are actually like 15-person retreats now? And I thought, I hadn't thought about that. And anyway, it was so good. It was so good. And so Saturday, I didn't go anywhere. I really sat around. I did small puttering around the house. But what was really important to me was I reconnected with some friends, and I realized I was letting myself get very sad and disconnected. So maybe that should have been the strategy, is make sure you're connected to the people you love and who love you. And then on Sunday, I talked to another friend who's in New Jersey, and it was great. And so I got a late start. And I decided, well, what do I want to do that I haven't done? Because I've had this phenomenal week, going everywhere, exploring everything. And so I ended up trying out a new sushi place in Glendale called Sea Butter, as in sea, the ocean, and butter, you know, what you spread on bread. And Sea Butter was so good. It was very intimate. It was very friendly. It was very minimalist and clean looking. Like, the inside was beautiful and surprisingly minimalist. The service was unbelievably good. The food was amazing. They have a low-carb menu with 4 rolls. 2 of them I recognized from other places. One was quite different from what I was used to. That's the polar roll, I believe, and there's a picture of it. And it was imaginative. It was served beautifully. The chef sent out little bowls of whitefish ceviche, her compliment, saying she just wanted to try it out because she had some extra whitefish anyway. It was delicious. It was whitefish in a slightly vinegary sauce with just a tiny slice of, I think it was extremely thin sliced gobo. It was just really tasty. Huge amount of ginger, which I love. And the roll was exquisite. The polar roll was exquisite. And I can't wait to go back. And I ended up talking to the wait staff. They were friendly and warm. It was just a really out-of-body experience for sushi restaurants. It was just so different. It was delicious and friendly. The prices were reasonable. But you felt like you were in somebody's project restaurant that they deeply love. Having done that, I waddled up to, of course, my favorite place on the planet in Glendale, which is Barnes & Noble, the 3-story massive Barnes & Noble. And I realized that what I wanted was an erasable board, like a slate, that I could carry around with me for one of my upcoming projects that I'm not going to explain. We'll see if I have the guts to do it. But I wanted this erasable slate, and I thought, I know they have them at Barnes & Noble. They treat them like toys. Now, this is a lot like my Remarkable. I want those same skills, but I don't want it to have an app. I don't want to pay for that. And I don't want it to be expensive, in other words. And I don't want to grieve if I lose it because it may be slightly at risk with the plan I am hatching. But I want this easily erased little board that I also can photograph or scan into my handheld of some, my phone or my tablet. So that, of course, is called a boogie board. That really does exist. And it's about $25 at B&N. Has a slim C battery, a watch battery, inserted in it already. And it's very simple. It's black. You get a little stylus with it. And you just press the button in the top center. It erases any noise or disturbance. And you write with the stylus. When you want to erase, you press that top button. So I got myself a boogie board. And I love the thing. The only mistake I made, it has 2 big magnets on the back. I came home and put it on the fridge. My whole family immediately began to use it. So the boogie board has come home with me, and I rather like it. Meanwhile, that evening, we finally got around to the Battle of the Silly String as well as the poppers. And you can see at the very, very top, my son shooting a popper, and I love that picture. And then the silly string. I don't have pictures. The silly string pictures came out a little hard to see. But we did all this, of course. Oh, no, there is one. Underneath the sushi on the left, there's me covered with silly string. I really lost. I got creamed, and I enjoyed it because I wasn't wearing good shoes to run away in. And then next to it, you can see my husband in the ruin of the poppers. And we're sitting out in front of the house and in front of my birthday pavilion. So then you can see the birthday pavilion. There it is in all its glory, the big tent with its cushy chairs, its little table, its big rug out front. In the dark, we put out strings of solar lights. They are still out there. It's wonderful to have this lighted runway leading up to it at night. You can see the inside, and that is walking in the front door, that picture on the left. Or you can see it's 3 rooms. So you walk straight, you walk into the living room, and next to it you can see what's in the living room, a couch and a table with a table lamp. And on to the 2 sides we have the bedrooms with inflatable mattresses in them. And we keep taking the chairs inside as well and just sitting inside it. It is shockingly warm in there at night, but if you open the windows, it's quite breezy. My husband has slept in it for 2 nights. He's just enjoying being out there. I'm a little bit divided about sleeping there because my allergies are kicked up with the wind we're getting now. But that's the birthday pavilion. And I think at the end it was a 14-person tent and at least 1 new inflatable mattress, a lot of chairs and some comfy cushions for the chairs, and the 3 big area rugs, indoor-outdoor rugs. So my husband says, we should just go to Yosemite at this point. I agree. That's going to be next in the game plan. When and how that'll happen, I don't know yet. Because, of course, the National Park Service has been defunded by, All right. Meanwhile, you can see the links to the helplines for LGBTQA+, because remember, in a civilized nation, we do not condemn people who look different from what we conceive of as the mainstream to death or kidnapping because they are different than us. Ooh, did I say kidnapping? That reminds me to say the resources for managing the ice crisis are also in there. You can see my calendar, the calendar for Yarnopoly and the Second Saturday Stitchers who are on Facebook. You can see their names and they have Facebook pages, and our Sit and Stitch group at the Darcy Library in Canyon Country and the Santa Clarita Valley Free Craft Exchange, although I don't think they've been active in a few months. You can see my race calendar, and you can also see that I have the evolution of psychotherapy coming up. I also need to add my Thanksgiving time off to that calendar, just so you know. Minerva gets the last word. And there is Minerva saying, all you need is love. It's one of my favorite pictures of us just cuddling. Minerva is very aware that the core community that most of us who are lucky have is a family. So there is Minerva being part of my family. And Minerva understands that the family is the basis of community and also enables others in our community who are not fortunate enough to have a family to have loving people to turn to form the community. In other words, families have practice in forming communities, so we can form even bigger communities that embrace everybody, including those who are not currently enfamilied, as it were. But remember, when you work for the good of the community, you are working for the good of the family. When you work for the good of the community, you are working for the good of the individual. And Minerva would like to tell you as one last note, all you really need is love to make these things happen. Having said all of this, everybody stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.